I was born in Seoul, South Korea. I immigrated when I was 7 years old back in 1972 or 1973. My parents started a wholesale business when I was around 6 and 7 years of age, where they would import in goods from South Korea, leather goods, jewelry, things of that nature, and they would sell it to the retail spots. I helped my parents, just like most immigrant family, build their business, and starting from 7 years of age, I recall the times when I was standing on a box, couldn't even speak English, but I was helping them bring up the registers. At a very early age, I started to understand what it was like to not only work, but also to do things that most children at 7 years of age probably never experienced, which was to be an entrepreneur. I think during the formative years, especially during the high school years, I realized that the people that were actually making the most amount of impact on the economy, creating the jobs, and actually creating wealth to a large extent, weren't necessarily the professionals such as doctors and attorneys and engineers. It was a person that was making those little paper, for sugar packets, or creating a wire hanger for the dry cleaners and shipping them all across the country. And it seemed very interesting to me how most people want their children to be doctors and attorneys, to have a great life and take that particular path. But what really shaped me was when I watched these individuals have a certain lifestyle and create these types of incredible empires off of something as simple as creating wire hangers, compared to somebody who went to school for 20 years to become a doctor. Somewhat fascinated me at a very young age. Not only do I enjoy helping and creating jobs for the companies that I personally own, but I love doing that from an education as well as a mentoring for other individuals. And to a large extent, I think my natural tendency is to, and true calling in life is actually to teach. And so I'm 44 now, so probably after a few more years, I'm going to probably lean myself towards teaching for that exact reason. I feel like I would actually accomplish something that's a lot more soulful in many ways than purely going after from an economic gain. I think every entrepreneur is a teacher. And any way you look at it, people need mentors in anything that you do, but in particular when it comes to entrepreneurship. And the thing that resonates to me the most above anything is how we make an impact on somebody else. So even if I'm creating a job, I feel as though that I'm making an impact on that person's life, in that particular person's family, the children. And so when I look to hire somebody, it isn't just about what can you do for me and how is the company going to benefit. I actually look to them as a human being and saying, look at how much this particular job means to that individual, especially in this economic time. Before I came to the United States, what people saw of America was a very, very kind of powerful nation, right? But they also saw it as a relatively violent nation, even back then. So when, before coming over here, my parents took me to Taekwondo classes for a year to prepare myself to come to the United States, just in case I need to defend myself. And so when I got to the States, what was a very interesting experience was I saw really a whole different society. And of course, everybody has different levels of experience anywhere they go, and at any point in their childhood, depending upon where they land. So I was very lucky enough to land in an area where the people are extremely nice and very, very open-armed. My first day in school and the first several days in school, I was probably the only Asian child in that entire community, coming over in the early 70s. So that's probably when the first wave of Asians came in from, from Southeast Asia, and we were all called the knee-high generation because we were knee-high. So literally, when people saw us, instead of being antagonistic in any way, all the kids were very, very interested. They asked me about things, and of course I couldn't speak any English, so I really didn't know how to respond to them. But what became very, very apparent was they shared all of their toys, even at 6 and 7, which you all know 6 and 7-year-olds love sharing, right? And they even, brought me home, and it was probably a novelty for them. Look, Mom, look what I found, that type of thing. And they had no idea what to expect when they saw me. And so my very first probably 9 months in the United States was an extremely kind of a happy time from transitioning from a completely foreign area. I knew from very early on that I wanted to have my own company. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do within that company, but I wanted to have my own company. So the very first thing that I did was prepare myself. Wasn't through books. I said, I'm going to do everything that I feel as though that I'm afraid of which also included public speaking. I think it's a natural fear to have a fear of public speaking, so I took my first public speaking class. The second thing I wanted to do was get rid of anything that I was in any way remotely afraid of, and I don't care if that was of people or of a particular event. And one of the things that I decided to do was actually go skydiving because I was terrified of jumping out of a plane. One of my friend's father instilled in me, which is literally that you can start a company and it is not the fact that you're going to be knocked down, because you are going to be knocked down. It is always how you get up and how you respond to those adversities. So what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do, was get rid of anything that I was so afraid of that might put me down and keep me down. Hurricane Katrina was a game changer for me, and so for probably since '93 to Hurricane Katrina, which was 2005, approximately 12 years, I have built, acquired, sold multiple businesses, and at that point, our firm owned 8 different companies. And we were probably at the height of 2005, employing hundreds of people and having revenues going into over $100 million in total revenues. And when Hurricane Katrina hit, we dropped down to about 10% of that almost within 18 months. It really is surprising who kind of steps up to the plate after a particular disaster happens. And you don't really quite see leadership until something traumatic happens. And there were people that were very, very vital, and it didn't matter whether they were coming from the finance side or from a legal side or from IT side. These are people that were even middle managers, all the way down to the people that where we would refer to as admin, that came in and took the bull by the horn and did whatever it was that was necessary. And so one of the things that we did was we immediately took many of those types of individuals that wanted to face that adversity and come back, including myself, and rebuild our organization. And now we're growing back, in essence, almost 400% from where we were in 2005. The thing that I feel the most positive about is that over the years that we have created an environment where people have called the company they work for home. And to a large extent, they spend as much time, if not more, than they do at their house. And so I feel very comfortable in saying that most people walk into their offices every single day feeling as though they haven't left their house. Building a business is not just purely based upon how smart you are, how much you can do on your own. It is about how great you can create as an organization, pulling people together from different talents and different management. If you really believe in something, make sure you are not lazy about it, because when you start a business, expect to spend 70, 80 hours a week. So if you're going to spend 70, 80 hours a week doing anything, make sure you have a passion for it. Make sure you believe in what you do, because that will resonate not only for your own business, for people that you hire, and they will believe in you. And one of the things about an American Dream is that my parents came over and they worked very, very hard, unimaginably hard, to give my brother and myself an opportunity to go to Ivy League schools, do anything that we wanted to do. And we went out and we became entrepreneurs, or we became professionals at what we do. And then now we are giving our children the opportunity to do something that gives them all sorts of flexibility. To me, that's the American dream. And what the problem that I see in this country is that I'm afraid that American dream no longer exists, or will not exist 20, 30 years from now. And one of the things that I have consistently said to my children, even at a very young age, when they're only 9 and 7 years of age, is that you have to do what makes you happy. And unfortunately, a lot of children, a lot of people are not in that position to be able to do something of that nature in the future. And for people that want to be an entrepreneur, want to be a doctor, will face a lot more burden in their lifetime unless we change something today. So my children, I want to do whatever feels comfortable for them. And the only thing that I ask of them is not to be lazy.